You highlighted the risk of creating scarcity in high-quality government bonds. How much more can you buy without pushing investors too far out the risk spectrum?
I think that we have a space, both in terms of the investment intentions of other investors, and as well with respect to the limits and the restrictions that we imposed ourselves. So I think that our APP program is not going to reach the limits.
You do
in the short term.
You do highlight also the asset management industry as one that's particularly vulnerable, especially to something like this, I would assume. And we've seen a lot of cases of funds having problems with liquidity and redemptions. Do you expect that to get worse?
Well, I hope that we will be able to address, the potential problems. What we are doing is making very clear that in the case of the asset management industry, there are, situations that could give rise to potential problems. For instance, the industry is much bigger than it was. Secondly, in the investment strategy, they are taking more risk and they are investing in more illiquid assets. And afterwards, finally, not as much in the case of Europe, but because this is a situation that is much more evident in the case of the States, they are taking more leverage. And simultaneously, an investment fund, you have to face up to a redemption in 1, 2, 3 days. So there is the possibility of a liquidity mismatch that you have to deal with. So the recommendation is that we should have a toolkit of macro-potential instruments for the asset management industry. We have it for the banks. In the case of the banks, and as you know, the supervision is much more intense than in the case of the asset management industry. And we should have it as well, this kind of potential instruments to be used in the asset management industry.
So what does that mean? You're developing now a toolkit to be used? Or?
Well, it's something that we have been analyzing, in different fora. For instance, in the ESRB, now we have started to talk about that. Because the importance of the industry is much higher than it was, and because perhaps the lower interest rate environment is having a bigger impact on the asset management than on the banks, and simultaneously, in other global fora like the FSB, this is a question that we are dealing with continuously.